Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:45 and a quorum of members is present, so the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby.
Here.
Mr. Helmer.
Here.
Mr. Kurth.
Here.
Ms. Schulz.
Here.
Mr. Seidel.
Here.
Ms. Unger.
Here.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Here.
I would entertain a motion to recess to closed session.
Madam President, I move to recess into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, 1C, E, and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider A, the approval of closed session minutes of January 10th, and B, employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth and a second by Mr. Helmer. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kurth.
Yes.
Mr. Helmer.
Yes.
Ms. Crosby.
Yes.
Ms. Schulz.
Yes.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Ms. Unger.
Yes.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Yes.
We are moving into closed session and will return to open session around 7 o'clock. It is now 7 o'clock, and we're returning from closed session into open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. For all those who are able, please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, Republic, which stands one nation, God, indivisible. And now for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we will have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by providing the agenda to the City Library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal-Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the Waukesha Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. First up is we have recognitions.
I'd like to start off by asking Andy Stefanson, Director of Buildings and Grounds, to come up with our guests.
Get this adjusted. There we go. Well, thank you. It's been quite a while since I've been up here by the board, so hope you all recognize me. But so we're here. Our school district is now storm ready, and these two gentlemen here with me, Mark and Tim, I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute and really dig into this. But basically what we've done over the last couple of years is they have toured the buildings with me, each school, to make sure that when there's severe weather of any kind, that our students and staff and anyone in the building that would be there at the time has a safe place to go and they'll fit. And so using the science together from the National Weather Service, we have developed the safest places in each building for everyone to go. And it took us a little while because the science is changing. And so we did the first round, had everything set, and they said, well, we need to make some changes. So we made those, and then they had to come back and re-inspect them. And so that's where we're at. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to these two gentlemen, and they're going to tell you all their credentials and what we did, and we'll go from there.
My name is Mark McGinnis, and my company, Fair Skies Consulting, helps school districts across not only Wisconsin but the United States prepare for severe weather. Most schools across the country just do your standard drill twice a year, and there are problems with that. And typically, the timing isn't great with it, and let me explain. Most schools do a drill between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., but the average tornado here in Wisconsin is between about 5:12 and 5:15 in the afternoon. So school districts don't even drill the most likely scenario. The school district now does. So your athletic director, your after school, they will all be trained. So you're not in a situation where everybody who is trained is at home and then you have kids and guests on your facilities without any recognition of where to go and what to do. The Storm Ready program, which Tim will get into, is the highest standard of weather safety used by the federal government. So you now have accreditation with that. The main points of Storm Ready are 1, awareness and education. 2, being able to beef up your communications. You want to be able to receive on different levels or frequencies or platforms weather information, specifically warnings. That's what we're most concerned about for school districts. And then 3, through the training and through a plan of action, which the school district now has, everybody, at least the people we train, will know what to do when that critical level is hit, whether it's a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. The people in your school district will know what to do to get your students, your staff, your guests to safety as quickly as possible.
Hello, my name is Tim Hallbach. I'm the warning coordination meteorologist for the National Weather Service Milwaukee Sullivan office. So we're the entity that issues all the annoying warnings and all the forecasts that interrupt all your favorite programming. But our office is located just on the road in Sullivan. We cover 20 counties in southern Wisconsin that we do forecasts and warnings for. My job in particular is to work with entities to try to make sure that they're doing the right things for when there is severe weather or winter weather, anything bad that happens here in southern Wisconsin. So the Storm Ready program is something that we use as kind of a recognition for groups that have gone above and beyond the basics of being prepared for when severe weather happens. Days like today, as weird as it sounds, are the best days to think about what you do when there's a tornado. You don't want to have a forecast for severe weather. It's going to be, coming through at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and you're scrambling to try to figure out if you have enough room to stick all the kids in in the rooms that you have available. So the Storm Ready, there's a lot of cities that have this accreditation. I think we have a handful of districts here in southern Wisconsin that have gone through it. Not everyone has done this. Other groups like the Brewers, Packers have gone through this as well, just to make sure that they have ways to get warnings, get it out to people, and then those people are going into the safe spots to when that bad weather is coming in. So we hope that nothing ever happens, and this isn't going to be like a protecting shield that will keep the weather away, but this is just our kind of a mark of thanks for Andy and Mark, who did the legwork here. I just kind of came in and like, yep, that looks good or bad or whatever. But I just want to say thank you and congratulations. Job well done to make sure the staff and students are all safe when severe weather happens. I miss?
So, there we go.
Yeah, I did want to just say, wish or congratulate Andy for his diligence. I know that we take a lot of pride in a lot of the work that we do, and it's there's a lot of things that allow us to make success happen in the classrooms. And I know that at Teaching and Learning, we get a lot of awards and recognitions from our TNL on behalf of our students and our staff. But I also want to let you know that Patrick and his team, they are no slouches either, including Andy here. And again, it's just part of the background of the work that we have to do. Regardless of where we are, I just want to clarify that while I do believe that teachers play the biggest impact in the learning of our students, they can't do it without the support of all others in the district. And this is just one piece of that broader puzzle of success that we are able to put together year in and year out. And, like I said, this was something that actually Andy brought to us. It was something that he wanted to do to make sure that we were doing what we needed to do, again, to keep our kids, safe, our staff safe, regardless of when that time comes. That's an interesting stat, Tim. And by the way, I'm glad to know that you are the Tim Hillbach that I get those messages from. See, when I wake up at 3 in the morning when kids hope there's a snow day, he's usually up well before that, and I'm just like, wow, I would not want that job. So, but when I do get Tim's emails, it's like, oh, here we go. But it's really good to meet you in person, Tim, and thanks for everything that you do as well. And also thanks for your consulting and the support of our staff and getting us ready as we need to do. So we would like to, first of all, thank you, Andy and team. Congratulations as well. Could we get a brief picture with all of us back here? David is going to kind of set us up, and could we have you three gentlemen join us, please? Mm-hmm. Not the coyote, but the three of you guys. That would be great. Andy, I had to kind of chuckle as you guys were talking all serious, and there's a coyote in front.
might have to. That's what we're gonna do. Perfect.
Okay, we're moving on. President's message this evening. I'd like to thank Poplar Creek. I'm sorry. Oh, getting ahead of myself. We have public comment, but I didn't have any sheets. So we do not have any public comments tonight, so now I can proceed with, with the president's message, but thank you for reminding me. So I just want to say thank you to Poplar Creek for having us here tonight. We really look forward to the tour. It's very nice to get back to our tours, and we can really feel the school spirit here. So love it here. Thank you.
No, we'll at this point, we'll ask Jenny and Matt to please come up, and they're going to have a brief presentation followed by a tour that they will be leading on our behalf. Before the tour, we would ask anybody that's here to please join us, take a look so that you can kind of get a better dive into what the rest of the school district looks like.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Tarosian, the Associate Principal.
Matt Stepneski, Principal. Cody the Coyote, Mascot.
He looks pleasant, but if he normally stands in front of the window in the office, and on a number of occasions I've come in when it's dark and his silhouette, whew, not so pleasant then. Very scary. Okay. So, yes, welcome to Poplar Creek. We are just going to run you through how things are looking for us. So as usual, we start out with our district strategic goal: continuously increase student performance to ensure all students are prepared for success in college, careers, and future opportunities. With the mission, we build, shape, and inspire all learners to achieve at high levels and become productive and responsible citizens. This is something that we're really proud of. That's why we put it right at the very beginning. So we had some really awesome growth on the state report card as of our last year's scores. So you can see in 2017, 2018, we were exceeds expectations with an 80.2. That jumped up the following year. In 2019, 2020, the world shut down and we did not get a state report card. And we're really proud because even through all of that, we came out last year with an 83.7, which bumped us to significantly exceeding expectations, 5 stars. So we're really happy with that. Yes, yes, thank you. Good job, buddy. Yeah, he's really helpful. Okay, so we're going to jump into our school action plan, broken down into 3 objectives: reading, math, and SEL goals, which is social and emotional learning. So jumping into reading first, by the end of the school year, we want 5% or 23 of our students to grow to be at grade level in reading. And we will be using this criteria to determine whether or not they're at grade level. As of our fall data, we were at 77%. We do have a ways to go. Just today, we broke down all of our data, started pulling our winter data, and teachers went student by student and came up with an action plan for every child who is below grade level for how we will push them forward, as well as also looking at the kids who are at grade level and how we can continue to push them. So we're feeling really confident that these numbers will grow. And very, very shortly, this number will change as our winter report cards are getting prepared as we speak. So math is similar. By the end of the year, we want 5% or 23 students to grow to be at grade level in math, as determined by this criteria here. And as of fall, we were at 81%. Moving on, this district's strategic goal: foster a collaborative work environment that attracts, retains, and honors high-quality staff for the benefit of the students. So we do have a social and emotional learning goal. The needs of our students and staff will be taken into consideration. proactively planned for and responded to as measured by, this gets a little wordy, maintaining or increasing the percentage of those who agree and strongly disagree on the surveys that we will take a look at, and decreasing the percentage of those who agree and strongly agree on the staff survey. You will see what I mean in a moment. So for our students, we go through these questions, and this is the first year we've started to measure them quarterly. So typically we just look at the results of the spring survey and we just kind of go from there. This year, to really be able to proactively plan for this, we've started asking these questions each quarter. So this is the first time we've asked in quarter one. We do see that the scores have gone down a bit. I think it'll be really interesting next fall to see if that's kind of what happens in the fall, if things go down a little bit. New students who may not know us, maybe not feeling as comfortable coming to us as some of the questions asked. So regardless, we do plan on reacting to this data. We have some plans in place, but next year we'll see if this is kind of a theme. And what? Oh, yeah, I don't know where to point it. Okay, perfect. So for staff, these are the same questions that they also get in the spring, and last year we did start where we asked them each quarter. Last year and this year, the questions that we're asking, we are asking that they are talking about in this time of COVID and the pandemic, how are you feeling? Where are you at? How can we support you? So a lot of these questions are based on that. For example, we probably wouldn't typically ask if they're concerned about their physical health, but of course we want to make sure that they're feeling safe at school. You can see that numbers have jumped a little bit, and I think it's okay if we're all honest that this has been a stressful school year, and so was last year. So of course we're still focusing on that with our staff and there to support them. And if you remember from last year, we had started a what should I call it, a book club, a book school leadership team. I think I forgot school leadership team last year also. So every month we focus on one of the topics in this book, and again, it's kind of talking about emotional resilience and how teachers can deal with all of these stressful things that are happening day to day at school. Oh, okay. All right, so the vision, we are striving to become a model of learning and teaching excellence in the district, state, and nation. So we have many cooperating teachers this year who have student teachers coming to learn from them, and that includes learning from the best, Mr. S. He has a student teacher who's coming to watch him be an administrator and learn how that goes. All right, here you can see, we're a little bit famous here, so that's exciting. McGraw-Hill, our math curriculum, came in and took some video of our kids and teachers in action doing some math, and they will be using those in training videos. So we'll be signing autographs later this evening. And I think that that's you.
So another district strategic goal and what it looks like at Poplar Creek as far as partnerships with the community. This was our school picture from this year, and our creek crawl raised over $40,000, which is unprecedented and amazing. So a huge shout out to our families, the students that kind of went home and kind of promoted it, and the families that donated from all over the world, as we found out. So that's amazing. This was a We Love Creek Crawl sort of school picture. We try to do something different every year, as you maybe saw in the hallway on your way out. Some don't turn out as well as others, but this one was okay. If you go out there later, you'll see what I mean. Some of that money goes towards the new library furniture. You'll see half of that in a little bit on our tour, and then the other half will be here in April. And then the rest of that money really goes to everything PTO and lots of other things as well. But so as far as the community partnerships, our school raised over 1,300 cans or items for the food pantry as part of our Kindness Week. For another year, the Lamb family, that's Addie, her and her family and a couple of our teachers have done candy for veterans after Halloween. Jerseys for Jackson, which a lot of the neighboring communities and almost nationwide for the for the tragedy in Waukesha. Our kindness tree has donations to Hawes as part of our Max, who is the dog from Grinch. We were raising items for Max. And then the kindness tree also had gift giving before the holidays, gifts for families. And our families are amazing when it comes to giving back, so we appreciate that. So you're here tonight, you're in our building, and so the last couple years, our PTO and some kids usually welcome or have welcomed us with some of the chalk drawings. So when the teachers come back in August, we see these at every door. So it's pretty cute. So there's kind of our welcome for you to be in today. And with that, when you're here, if you were here every day, you'd hear some very interesting things. So kids say the darndest things. We pulled some of our favorite ones because usually we share these with staff at the end of the year, but we pulled some of our favorite ones for you. So I don't want you drinking that Starbucks, Mrs. Nowak. It'll turn your pretty teeth yellow. That was a kindergartner. I went to kindergarten boot camp. I'm like the smartest person in the class. So the following was the message from the head nurse in kindergarten at the doctor's office play center. We're out of COVID tests. They're not all kindergartners, but if you're ever having a bad day, you just walk down to kindergarten, and it's a much better day then. You look like my daddy, except he has red hair and a beard and different shoes. This is the staff member that they were talking to, Mr. Cook. So you look just like my daddy. Thank you, Mr. Cook, for that one. Mrs. Nepreth, you know how to shake your booty? And I believe the response was, that's not something you asked your teacher. That's what Paula said. My nose hurts, but at least it's not bleeding like last year. I was picking it too much. Your hip hurts because your womb has a baby in it. The womb hurts the hips. Mrs. Brandt, who was here. I'm late because my mom got pulled over. So lots to hear in the office. Lots to hear in the office when the kids come in late. I miss my mom. One of the reasons is because she has a PS4 at her house. Dad's picking me up. He's late because it's guys' night. So this is, so back to kindergarten. Kindergarten writing piece. It's all about kids and adults. Kids drink lemonade, adults drink beer. So just a few of the kids say the darndest things that we like to share with staff at the end of the year. We usually have a collection that we do as kind of our end of year celebration. So we just want to share a little bit of that with you while you're here with us tonight. This was our Lead, Believe, and Achieve all-school picture from last year. Those are actually 21 different pictures that School and Sports Picks was able to do for us, because at the time, kids were only with their own class. So we kept that the same, even for the school pictures. So we like to share that with you every year. So questions, or save questions now and save some for the tour if you'd like. But thanks again for coming over and letting us host.
Thank you very much, Matt. We ready to head out that way?
Going this way.
All right, thank you.
Okay, looks like everybody's back from our tour. Thank you very much for that tour. And so then we have next is our secondary student representative update.
I'll hand it over to Simon.
Well, good evening, everyone. Last week was our finals week, which ended our first semester. And this year was a little different. We had a little bit of a different final schedule. And on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week, there were less classes on those days. Those classes were longer, and there was also multiple study opportunities for students throughout the day. And some teachers believed that there were both pros and cons this week. They stated that the pros of the week was that it was important for teaching good exam-taking skills and study skills that could translate to later in life, like in college. And they also thought there were some cons, such as causing more stress for some students, where all your tests are in 1 week, so you're having to study for all of those. On the other hand, multiple students actually really liked having this different schedule, and especially having less classes in a day. They really liked that they could focus on, certain classes each day and not have to worry about having 10 exams in a day. Also, a lot of students participated in our day's address in preparation for the winter dance last Saturday. And the winter dance was a huge success, and the students had a lot of fun. They said that the DJ at the dance was probably one of their favorites of all time in all their high school dances. Also, Eisenhower Dance, they're working hard to prepare for regionals this week. The Eisenhower Band, they had their cool jazz and hot chili fundraiser full of food and jazz performances. The Ike Theater is preparing for their musical, Addams Family, which will be performed the last 2 weekends of February. NHS has been very busy with service projects, as students made 30 blankets over the weekend for Project Linus. And also, starting soon, NHS members are preparing for a Coin Wars fundraiser to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And students will be able to donate coins to different departments, such as the math and science departments. And the department who raises the most money will get a prize at the end. The Ike DECA chapter was fantastic at the district competition earlier this month and is bringing a record number 20 students to the State Career Development Conference in February. Starting this week, students are beginning to register for classes for next year. And in our classes the past semester, and especially this month, we have been learning about different course options and opportunities we have for next year. And finally, the New Berlin wrestling team is continuing their historic season with their first ever win against Pewaukee since 1966. And with a win at Wintnell this Wednesday, the team will secure a conference championship. Thank you.
Great, thank you for all of that. And now we have the superintendent update.
Yeah, I did want to provide my update related to COVID. And just wanted to let you know that we continue to ebb and flow as we have been. As you know, as a nation, we're dealing with the new variant that seems to be contagious. And so numbers were being recorded at record highs, at least as far as COVID positive rates and transmission. At least in Waukesha County, in our reporting, that despite those higher levels, and they were actually even higher than the levels that we experienced last winter, that the rates themselves as far as hospitalization rates and fatalities were actually lower as far as rates go. So as far as where we were last week Friday, we had 42 students and 8 staff that were COVID positive. As of this afternoon, now I did want to mention that today we did not have school. Thank you for allowing us today for our staff to transition from first semester to second semester. It is very well received. We are down to 4 students and 3 staff, but certainly that could change as families are reporting those rates. As mentioned, I don't believe that we will shut down as a district as it relates to COVID positive student cases necessarily. What it would really boil down to is COVID positive staff and making sure the staff that we have available to be productive as a school. But even there, we have and will continue to provide creative opportunities to make sure that our kids are in school as needed. The numbers in the county have been going down. Again, the numbers were very high throughout December, through the holidays, and even after the holidays. Again, we were able to continue to stay open despite that. And the numbers now seem to be plateauing as a state, as a county. And nonetheless, one of the things that I just want to clarify, because I did get some emails from families, was, are we responding to updates that we get from the DHS? We always do. And what we do is we certainly evaluate those correspondences from DHS. We then work with the county depending on when we receive those correspondences to kind of get their opinion, and then we make our determination on how we move forward. We also consult with other Waukesha County school districts as we make determinations. Specifically, one of the questions that I got that I did mention, and it was brought up by the school board as I sent an update to the board, was related to testing and the testing kits that are available to school districts. And I just want to clarify that we did not decide to go down that path because of the lack of effectiveness and the false positives and negatives of the testing kits that are available. They're rapid tests, and quite honestly, somebody that had recently had COVID might actually, and they had it, say, 15 days ago, which is beyond the isolation time, may actually read positive in a rapid test because of the way that those tests run. And a lot of the tests, basically the tests that were being offered to us as school districts are not PCR tests. And the PCR tests are the ones that we would want our hands on. But even there, it's still a rapid test and not necessarily as effective as we would have by sending people to their own pediatricians or their own doctors. And so rather than confuse our families even more than they already are about, when can I come back? Is it a negative test? Which negative test? There's no sense in us confusing our own families even more by convoluting it with these free tests that we can get from the state that, in our opinion, would not be beneficial because we would be relying on a test from their pediatrician anyway. Because we haven't relied on home testing since the start of all of this. And again, we just believe that, one was, well, is there a shortage of testing? According to the county, there's not. If families want to contact their respective pediatrician, which we encourage them to do, there has not been a shortage of that. And so, yes, maybe there were long lines at the local testing sites over the holidays. It was over the holidays, and we did not have school. And then further, once we did have school, kids can go to their pediatricians. They don't have to wait in line at Summit Labs to go do that, which in our opinion would be more convenient. So, but again, we do respond to any correspondences that we get from DHS. We evaluate them. We work with the county health department, and we work with other county school districts. And for example, the correspondence that we received a couple of weeks ago, none of the other districts did anything different based off of what DHS had sent us at that time, along with the school district of New Berlin. So again, we continue to plug away. We continue to put our best foot forward and try and minimize the impact that this is having on our work. I will say that while you did get an update tonight on what's happening here at Poplar Creek, you're going to continue to get these types of updates at the other schools that we'll be at. And then Kelly and her team will also be providing an update on kind of where we're at with our data as it relates to student performance. And we believe that it's been minimal, but there's a lot of data that we need to kind of trudge through. Kelly, when exactly are we bringing that report to the board? Is it last meeting in February? So we've got a couple meetings, and we'll have that information to you on the impact that, I guess that this has had on our work. But, I will say it's now been 2 years since a lot of this started. I believe it was 2 years, January, that we were talking about this very thing. It was just starting, but we're 2 years in now. We know a lot more than we did at that time. And we'll continue to plug away and focus on keeping our schools open on behalf of our students. Thank you.
Joe, I just had a couple questions regarding your COVID update. So in that DHS letter, There were several things that were noted in that letter. One of the things was that DHS was saying that they had funding available for school clinics for vaccinations and boosters, and you didn't touch on that. And I assume we're not doing that.
Correct, we're
because
not, and that was something that, if I recall, that was something that the board had, when we had presented to the board that was in that document, that we wouldn't be moving forward with vaccines or vaccine clinics in the district, but even so.
We had done that in the past. We did have a vaccination clinic for staff in our
Correct.
buildings in the past. So,
And again, that was because there was a shortage at that time.
sure.
If students want to get the vaccine, they can contact their pediatrician.
Okay, but my question is, what was the rationale behind rejecting that out of hand, in spite of the fact that, yes, people can get vaccinated by their pediatricians, sure, but that was offered as an additional DHS measure for us. And I assume it was that you considered it and just decided it wasn't appropriate, and
Correct.
the reasoning was just because people can get vaccinated from their pediatricians?
Correct.
Is that, okay. So so that was just rejected. Okay, the second issue is they had, in the DHS letter, they also, as a last point, they had mentioned that there was some funding available for school nursing programs. I don't know what they meant by that. Do you know what they meant by that? It was the last paragraph of the letter.
I know that we had looked at it, but I'd have to go back and look at it. It's been a couple of weeks since we did.
Okay, because I was wondering what.
Is
that
it related to nursing or making sure that we were approved as a testing or?
No, it wasn't related to testing. So
Or
I
vaccination?
just didn't know what that meant, because I know that Pam Jessie is working her tail off, and has been for the last, few years ever since COVID hit. And I don't know if she needs any help or if we need any assistance in that regard.
No, we were appropriately staffed, and we did ask for health room assistance as needed, and
Yeah.
we had some of them last year. We have some this year as well. So we're making our way through that without issue.
So, but because it sounds like you didn't see that or note that or whatever, I don't know what that, when they were offering financial assistance surrounding nursing issues, I guess I want to know what that means. I want to know what they're offering.
I can get back to you.
That'd be great. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. That's it.
All right. Then we have some district reports. Let me bring this back up. We just have the incident report, the enrollment report, the suspension report, and the donation report. Before we read the donation report and thank our donors, are there any questions on any of these reports? I also want to mention under the suspension report, we have now added the behavior codes per our last discussion, so I asked Mr. Garza to do that since you had
Yep,
mentioned
I
that.
appreciate you adding that, Joe. Thank you. I did notice that.
I did have one question on the incident report. There was 2 incidents on there. One, the family covered the cost. The other one, it said the staff fixed the issue, but it didn't say anything about cost recovery from the student that did the damage.
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay. I think it was about a drain or a faucet or something like that that was broken, if you can get back.
We'll make note and get back to you on that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions on the reports? Okay, Mr. Seidel, would you read the donation report for us?
It would be my pleasure. First donation was $125.22 for the Ronald Reagan Home and School to support the bus costs for first grade field trip in the amount of $376.96. The approved date was 10/14/2021. The next one was New Berlin Boys Basketball Booster Club purchased team warm-up suits in the amount of $1,840, and the approval date was 12/14/21. The next one was for New Berlin West, the Iron Jock LLC support the athletic program in the amount of $2,500. The next was from Fan UC America CERT Team to support New Berlin Eisenhower in the amount of $28,000 in an in-kind donation. The next one was Inpro Corporation to support Ronald Reagan Elementary School in the amount of $30,000. The next one was from the Poplar Creek PTO to purchase library furniture in the amount of $4,500. The last is James Fleming Support Special Education in the amount of $250, bringing our total donations to $67,000. Just give me 1 second here. I don't ever wear my glasses. $466.96. That's amazing. Thank you to all of our generous donors.
Thank you. Then we have our consent agenda, which includes the notice and approved minutes of January 10th, also the financial reports. Are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. And on to our regular agenda. First is discuss declaration of regular education open enrollment seats for 2022-2023.
So we had discussed this with the board on a couple different occasions. Most recently, we talked about the open enrollment policy, which guarantees currently enrolling students and siblings of currently attending students, as well as establishing a waiting list. Those kind of were the main topics of what the board had changed a year ago. We were recommending that we not make any changes to that current policy, so those things would remain in place. No action is required tonight on the policy. And the last meeting we presented you a draft of the seat projections for 2022-23 open enrollment seats. Attached are the seat projections for grades K through 12, updated with second Friday enrollments. As you can see, based upon current enrollment, current number of sections, and current class sizes, there are no seats available at any grade level. We do need a motion stating the number of seats available as is in your notes. Again, just because there are no seats doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to allow those that are currently enrolled to be able to come back and or their siblings of those to be able to come back. That's how we were able to actually open up quite a few seats last year. As of right now, we're trending at about 5 or so, about a handful, and that could go up and down depending on how people move in and out of the school district. So again, that is our recommendation, and we have not heard anything different since we had prepared these items for the board. This will be concurrent with the next item, which I won't get to until we get to that item.
All right, to open up discussion, I need a motion that states I move to approve the 2022-2023 regular education open enrollment seat projections of 0 seats in grades K through 12.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth. Any
Excuse
discussion?
me. Point of order. I do need to have you make the motion and
The full motion.
I move
with
to
the
Want
seat
to read it?
numbers.
I move to approve the 2022-2023 regular education open enrollment seat projections of 0 seats in grades K through 12.
So I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, a second by Mr. Kurth. Any discussion?
So I've been a proponent for open enrollment for the last several years with our board. I know that has not, we got an open enrollment program started. We haven't increased those seats. We have the capacity to increase those seats because we have the building availability for those seats. The board has shown a lack of, for lack of a better term, political will to do so. I think that's a mistake, and I think it's a mistake because of the fact that we have the capacity and we have the means to do it in a rational and smart way where we wouldn't run the risk of having to hire additional staff, which has always been the reason against open enrollment. I think that the decision not to extend open enrollment, again, is a mistake, because while we sit right now in a pretty darn good budget position, we sit in the budget position we're in because of the fact that we have received a lot of aid from our state budget because of the increased costs that we've increased numbers in student aid that we've received in the last 2 budget cycles. And as a result of that, we're sitting in a good budget position. We've also received a lot of COVID aid from the federal government, which has also increased our budget position, made us in a much better position in that regard. That money won't be forever. And because that money won't be forever, I feel that we need to be more proactive and look down the road at what's coming. And what's coming is less money for us. When there's less money for us, the only way in an educational system like ours that you increase your revenue is by increasing your people in the seats. And when we're not willing to do that, we're not willing to help ourselves. And that's very unfortunate for the long term. I would like this board to be more forward-thinking rather than more reactive, which is what we've historically done since I've been on this board and since before I got on this board. So that's why I won't vote to approve these seats, but I fully expect they will pass because the majority of this board does not wish to change how we do things.
Any response?
Right now, we have a 9% cushion, I think you built in this, Joe?
Yes.
So approving open enrollment would increase our class sizes in classrooms. I'm not for doing that now. We've fixed our budget problem. Our budget problem was not fixed by additional categorical aid by the state. It was fixed by fixing a spending problem. So I'd like to make sure that that is clear and on the record. So I do support this proposal of not opening new seats. The most we're going to open is a couple seats. And again, we're not using a 13 or 14% cushion. We're getting down to where those class sizes are, so we will be increasing class sizes by adding open enrollment seats.
Anything else? I'd just like to state that I've always been in favor of having open enrollment, being that it's not going to be a cost to us. If we have a good product, I think it's great to open it up to other families from outside our district. I think the competition's good, but we always have to keep in mind that we can't do it at the expense of taking away from the students that we do have in this district first. And I guess we have a 9% cushion. If I remember correctly, legal counsel advised us not to drop that. Sorry, legal counsel advised us not to drop that cushion, is that correct?
Yeah, and so, that's the one thing that I was just checking with Dan, and we were actually, before we went down this path of opening up seats, which we didn't do so until about 3 years ago, we were using a cushion of 12%. And then the board decided to move that cushion down to 9%, which kept us a lot more tight. 3% is a pretty substantial decrease, quite honestly, when you're projecting seats that you can't really predict. So it really puts us in quite a compromise. And so doing anything less than that, we believe, and that's what our legal counsel is suggesting, that it could also people can start asking a lot of questions too as to why we are going to deviate so much from that 12% where we were at for so long.
And Joe, real quick, sorry to jump in. You mentioned, I think you said if we do open seats, they won't be open at 8%. I think you said we had to go to 6 or 7% or something like that.
Actually, it was at 7%. We would only have 1 seat available at 7th grade.
Which we, as a board, said we didn't want 7th grade. So we'd have to go to 6% to open
6% would give you 4 seats at 7th grade. 5% gives you 8 seats at 7th grade. And then at 4%, you have 11 seats at 7th grade. So that's down to 4%, and you're only opening it up to 7th graders.
Okay. So it sounds like this is really a very small cushion to just get a few seats. So it doesn't even sound like there's that much.
There's a lot of risk involved.
with not getting a lot of new students in either.
Yeah, I feel that this would be too risky to drop it down. I agree we need to be forward-thinking, and forward-thinking means we have to be careful. That's just too risky. And keep in mind that we don't get 100% funding from those students who open enroll in. We only do get half. So it's not really a revenue generator. I know personally I've always been in favor of open enrollment more for parents' choice, not so much as far as being a revenue generator.
The revenue we get from those seats, Janet, is more than half of what we get for resident students.
Do we get more than half?
It's about 11 and change for a resident student and 7 and change for non-residents. Those are the numbers from DPI.
So you're talking about if we have a student in New Berlin but not the district, who's actually in a West Milwaukee district, if they come in open enrollment here, you're saying we get a little more? But still not the full amount.
Is that if you do it properly, and I said this to Joe on the phone a while back. I said I'm not advocating that we become a Wauwatosa school district, which does a ton of open enrollment. I mean, they have a whole. I mean, it's a big operation over there. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting that we do have. If you look at our facility plant and our classroom capacity that we had done in 2011, paid a lot of money for that study to be done. If you look at that, we have a lot more availability. So my point is that we're not using it because this board's made a decision that we don't want it. So that's where we're at. And it's a majority rule. So the majority of people on this board decide they don't want it, they don't want it, period. I'm just pointing out that I think that, I'm just pointing out, if you don't mind, I'm just pointing out that I would rather that we actually, and I, as a matter of fact, I disagree with some of the things that Mitch has said as far as our budget. We are in debt to the governmental agencies that aided us. We got a lot of money out of them that we wouldn't be sitting on. That's a fact. So it wasn't us fixing our budget problems per se, not 100%. So credit where credit is due.
You didn't say 100%. You said it's majority fixed.
I didn't say majority.
Additional funding.
I said we had our budget problems fixed because we got a lot more money from the government, which is a fact. And if we hadn't gotten that money, we wouldn't have this situation. So I'm saying we can agree to disagree about that. But in the end, my position is that I think this is a mistake. I've said what I've said. I'm in the minority. So, I'm not sure how much more time you want to spend on this.
No, sorry, I just wanted to understand how far down you wanted to go in the cushion, so.
Yeah, without laying out a percentage, if you want to go down to 2% to get your job done of opening open enrollment seats, I feel like this is all theatrics without laying that out. I mean, just saying we want open enrollment seats but not giving a number and the number of open enrollment seats you want and the cushion that you want to go down to, I mean, this is theatrics then.
All right, I think we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes. Then we have discussed declaration of special education open enrollment seats for 2022-2023. And there is did you want to present anything?
Yeah, and while we do have seats available through the special ed calculations, because the board has approved no seats for next year, it's a moot issue, and so therefore there are no open enrollment seats for special education students either. So we need that specific recommended motion that the board has in their notes, as recommended.
If we did open enrollment seats for the general population, we'd be opening them in 7th grade, which would then be opening special education seats for this as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
So that would go against the board's decision before to not open special education open enrollment seats.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, do I have a motion?
I move to approve 6 level 1, 2 level 2, or 1 level 3 secondary special education seats for 2022-2023 should regular education open enrollment seats become available.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, a second by Mr. Kurth to approve. Any discussion? None. So then all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discuss approve the 2023-2024 school year calendar. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
You're not gonna make me read that out, are you, Diana?
We should be good on that.
Getting lazy. Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Seidel to approve. Any discussion?
I just want to point out that the calendar is pretty standard per se. It does have the last week of March as the spring break, which is something that we, as a district, were directed to by the board to make sure that unless Easter was very close to that we would have Easter when it actually is and have the spring break kind of coincide with that. But because it is not, we're going to have spring break on the last week of March, and that does align with the majority of districts in Waukesha County. I think you'll note a lot of the same things that you've experienced over the last few years. I did want to just note that we are looking at graduations now to be held on probably a Friday evening and a Saturday midday. And Ike and West have been rotating or will continue to rotate. We feel pretty comfortable with that, so that is now noted. If you look at June 7th, it does note the first high school graduation. June 7th, and then June 8th would be the second high school graduation. And I apologize, I don't know which is which for that year. But we typically will rotate them. So if Ike is on a Friday night one year, they'll be on a Saturday afternoon the next year. That would be our typical rotation, but that's subject to change, I guess, as needed. So again, we'll be seeking formal approval of that. I think I'm going to have to bring this next one back to the board because we don't have it on the agenda with the proper noting of amending the 2022-2023 calendar. So we'll bring it back at the next meeting. I did mention to the board that one of our significant emphasis focal points for next year is that of our literacy update and review. It is going to be a critical implementation, and we will be bringing to the board over the course of the spring our recommendations for the new resources. And we want to make sure that we are set up, that we're going to set up our staff, because we do believe a critical piece of implementing that work is making sure that our staff are getting the appropriate training and resources that they need and ready to use them and hit the ground running once the school year starts. We have actually, I think we only have about 3 professional learning days prior to the start of the school year, and that is just not going to be enough as we get into the next rollout for our ELA resources, and that which is reading and writing. And so we are proposing, and again, we're not going to be seeking your approval tonight because we don't have it appropriate on the agenda for action. We were supposed to start school on September 1st. We are now asking that students report to school the day after Labor Day, which is September 6th. They can thank me later. But on the 1st and the 2nd, we would be using those 2 days for professional learning for our staff. It would then give them 5 days prior to the start of the school year. And I just want to clarify that starting the school year isn't always just about the new resources. They actually have to ramp up to the start of the new school year. At the elementary, we actually have open houses at all of our schools prior to the start of the school year. So we're ramping up. We need additional time for that training in order to get that work appropriately going. We are taking one less day in October, though, so it's a net difference of 1 learning day for students. We are going to be okay as far as snow days go. We looked at the calculations for instructional minutes, but we want to make sure we get that approval from the board. We'll get it from you at the next meeting. I did not get any feedback from the board, good, bad, or indifferent, from when I had mentioned that to the board, and so that will be our recommendation. But for tonight, we do need your approval of what is on the agenda, which is the 23-24 school calendar. Any questions?
All right, if there's no questions or comments, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes. Then we are on to our personnel policies. Discuss approve policy 3120, employment of professional staff, replacing current policy 4,000 personnel. And so this was brought forth by the Personnel Committee, so I only need a second. I'm sorry, I need a motion first.
I move to approve policy 3120 as presented.
So I don't need a second because that's the other way around, sorry. Do we have any discussion on this? Okay, if there's no discussion, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes. And then we have discuss approve policy 3122.01, drug-free workplace, replacing current policy 1331 of the same name. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Didn't need a second because this is also brought forth by the Personnel Committee. So any discussion? No discussion then. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes. And also another one that was brought forth by the Personnel Committee, discuss approve policy 3242, professional growth requirement, replacing current policy 4130, professional learning. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer. Any discussion? No discussion, so all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes. And then we have action items discussed in closed session. We have one.
I move to approve the employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Kurth, a second by Mr. Helmer. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Now we have future meetings and dates. Board meetings are generally held the second and fourth Mondays, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Eisenhower Commons unless noted otherwise. February 7th is a Personnel Committee meeting at 4 o'clock p.m. It's virtual. Part of that will be closed session, just to let you know. February 14th, 7 o'clock p.m. at Ronald Reagan Elementary. So we'll be continuing our building tours at Ronald Reagan. And then other important date, well, today there was no school, so tomorrow is back to school, and it's the first day of the second semester. It's time to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, second by Mr. Kurth to adjourn. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.